I know the area very well. I've discovered and identified at least 20 native North American plants, various berry bushes, trees, different kinds of grasses, mosses, and an array of fungi that draw an abundance of wildlife. My personal encounters with wildlife include deer, moose, fox, rabbit, coyote, garter snake, beaver, fisher, porcupine, raccoon, squirrel, muskrat, bald eagle, Cooper's hawk, pileated woodpecker, owl, mallard duck, geese, numerous songbirds, and insects. These forests are considered an old forest, and to many that may not seem very important, but in fact it is. For example, the pileated woodpecker would not thrive and survive without it. They do require an old-growth forest. Together, the North Saskatchewan River, Ross Creek, Turner Park Forest, and Ross Creek Forest draw the above-mentioned wildlife to the area by providing food, protection against weather and animals of prey, and spots for breeding and nesting. The Fort Saskatchewan River and Ross Creek provide their water source. The Ross Creek Forest, which is a natural urban green space, is currently owned by Nutrien, who wishes to donate the land to the city. Now, unfortunately, the Ross Creek Forest, which is on Nutrien's private property, and the Turner Park Forest, which is on city property, has seen a substantial amount of misuse and abuse due to unsanctioned activity, such as cutting down live trees, cutting dead logs laying on the ground, and I should mention those dead logs on the ground are just as vital to our ecosystem as the live standing trees. Building structures like bridges and drinking bars, weed whacking through berry bushes, digging out native plants with shovels to develop multiple parallel and crisscross trails and berms. The creek is littered and plugged with cut logs and broken, rotted wooden structures that have been replaced. Erosion has become a very serious concern in particular locations. Nutrien decided to fence off their property within the industrial buffer zone. Liability was becoming a potential issue. Should and or when the city takes over this donated land, I'm hopeful Indigenous people of Fort Saskatchewan will be included and consulted in the decisions made for future use, because truly the land we walk on is Indigenous land. The plant life that exists in those woods could be utilized by Indigenous people for herbal medicine, food, ceremonies, and gatherings. I'm also hopeful the Parkland Bylaw 1952, which restricts development and extensive use, is upheld should it not be adhered to.
You have 1 minute.
We can all continue to enjoy the woods and recovery is possible, but there has to be a proportionate amount of respect and consideration for flora and fauna. I would like to see this land conserved by limiting it to no more than low-impact recreation, such as hiking, bird watching, and snowshoeing, along with signage indicating as such. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll ask Council, do you have any questions of Susan? Okay, I've just got one question for you, Susan. Being part of the Natural Society, do you also work alongside of the Friends of the Fort Saskatchewan Prairies,
Yes.
who are dedicated to that reserve area?
Yes, I am.
You go out and do the plantings with them?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Just wanted to check on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? No? All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming out today. The next person who has registered is Jeanette Woods. So you may make your way to the front. And hello, Jeanette.
Hello.
Jeanette, and I'll have you state your name for the record and which item that you would wish to speak to for 5 minutes.
Okay, and it'll be very short with simple thoughts. As a resident of Fort Saskatchewan,
You want to just tell us which item? It's
Pardon?
for the record. Your name and which item.
Sorry. My name is Jeanette Woods, and I'm here to state my thoughts on saving the urban areas of the city of Fort Saskatchewan, the woodlands and the
Okay.
forests.
Okay. You have 5 minutes.
And as a resident, entering my fourth quarter century of life with 6 adult grandchildren and 1 great toddler grandchild, I'm here to briefly voice why the existing urban areas of this city need to be saved from further destruction, as has happened in downtown next to industrial and residential areas, and to some extent to the west. I live in Uptown next to James Mowat Park. I'm here to represent myself and other folks who may be like-minded. I am a member of the Naturalist Society. We need the tonic of woodland and forest wildness, i.e. the flora and the fauna within them, as well as the birds and other small creatures who need it to survive. To look at these from an extended time contributes to good health and well-being, which in turn helps create greater communities. We have a population of seniors and others who are marginalised in one way or another. Yes, it is good to have swimming pools, gyms, yoga studios, sports arenas and fields for those who are drawn to them and enjoy what they offer. Fitness, recreation, competitive recognition, and a centre for seniors is good too. What is missing is woodlands and forests easily reached and accessible to all citizens. They need to be well cared for and managed so that they are safe and enjoyable for all walkers and urban cyclists. Separate areas should be planned in future land development, if not already in the works, for sporting cyclists and other machine sports. There are areas outside Fort Saskatchewan for these sports. Some of the benefits of having our own woodlands and forests nearby for agers are less driving, more time to enjoy, with potential of remaining independent in our own homes, loving life no matter what, with a heightened sense of good health and well-being and a healthier community. I realise there will be safety and social concerns to be considered, worked out, managed with intelligence and wisdom combined. I'm ending with 2 short, unnamed quotes. We are all aging, and one size does not fit all. Aging shouldn't equate to declining good health. I just had someone say to me not that long ago, "Oh, it's just your age." Not acceptable. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for coming out. Are there any questions for Jeanette? Not seeing any. Thank you very much. The next person who has registered is Shannon Stewart. Welcome, Shannon. And once again, we are live streamed, so if you can state your name and which item you would like to speak to for the record. And you will have 5 minutes. Oh, you just turned your mic off.
Okay. Oh, okay. My name is Shannon Stewart, and I'd like to speak towards the Nutrien land transfer as well.
Okay.
I brought some slides. Okay. Perfect. So, greetings to the council, members of city staff, and other members of my community. My name is Shannon Stewart. I've been a member of the Fort Saskatchewan community for about 12 years. I have my science degree. I work nearby in ag research, and I'm also here representing the Fort Saskatchewan Naturalist Society. Here, this picture of Ross Creek that I've chosen is showing the old growth nature of the forest, a beautiful carpet of native plants, and you can see the moss on the old logs there, and basically it's a healthy ecosystem that promotes biodiversity, aka a great amount of different types of life. So here's a bit of a larger picture of the area. It's kind of in the star, and I chose this image from Google Maps because it shows that it's part of this green nature corridor that basically connects Elk Island in the bottom right to the North Saskatchewan River Valley in the upper left. And basically, I just wanted to point out that these corridors are really important for wide-ranging animals to travel, plants to be able to propagate with genetic interchange to occur, movement in case of any sort of disaster, and so they can repopulate areas that may have previously their population would have went down. So then also you can see the great extent of developed versus natural areas in this image. So a little bit closer up, you can see that this green area is even mostly developed. And then I've circled our little area that we're talking about in the red there, and you just kind of want to point out that it's a natural area with lots of trees, mixed woods, and it's also has a river or a creek in it as well. So it's a bit of a riparian area or a riverbank area, which also has some more ecological importance. And then, this area used to have maybe a few game trails, but now it's a network of all these crisscrossing trails that people have created, and it tends to confuse the animals and it makes it less welcome for them. So a little bit of info on riparian areas. They have really high diversity for such small areas, and they're depended on by 80% of Alberta wildlife. So these sorts of areas also have additional environmental benefits like limiting flood damage, filtering surface water, and of course, like I'm sure you guys have been, with your urban forest initiative, have been being educated on health benefits that natural areas provide. So they reduce our stress and increase our self-esteem, boosting our mental health, obviously the physical health with stress reduction and an opportunity for exercise, spiritual health, sense of connectedness, awe and purpose, social health, facilitating interactions between individuals, and actually studies say in particular we're more likely to have interracial interactions in our urban green spaces, which is pretty interesting. So these sorts of benefits lower probability of things like cardiovascular disease, which is our number 2 killer in Canada, lowers obesity, diabetes, chances of hospitalization due to asthma, mental distress, and basically overall mortality.
You have 1 minute.
Okay. And this, of course, leads to broader social benefits, decreases in health spending, lower crime rates, increase in property value. And then a little chart on the right, I just basically in one of these studies where they say that the health benefits actually increase as the biodiversity in an area increases, but this is perceived numbers of species versus actual numbers of species, and there's a positive relationship. So I just brought this to point out that you don't need to be a botanist or biologist to perceive that an area is more rich in species and therefore get those health benefits from it. And then I just have a few pictures here, of a few of the destruction damages that Susan was talking about in the area that we're talking about. So they've been cutting trees, leaving garbage, they're building structures, and they're generally making the paths a lot wider. Okay. So I just wanted to say that people are using our parks more, and we may need to up our protections of them, maybe with some signage or limiting people. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there Now I got to shut this off. Are there any questions of Shannon? Councillor Blizzard?
Yeah, I guess the question could apply to all three that have spoken so far. So you're not against the land transfer. You just, when it happens or if it happens, we're not done yet, but you just want caution used and maybe some limitations on the development in there or what's allowed.
Yeah, basically that's what we're trying to kind of emphasize.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Macon?
Thank you. That was one of my questions. And the other one, I guess, and just a couple of the comments that have been made in the last, not just including your presentation, but is there the inference that we shouldn't be allowing bikes to bike down through the natural paths?
I do believe that this group may be promoting the degradation of the area. I think that, like personally, and maybe amongst people that I've been discussing this with, we believe that maybe there is space for people to use bikes, but that this should be limited and controlled in a manner where, maybe we can have one trail that we stick to.
Do you think that that's a fair analogy from like a, what's the word I'm looking for? A fair use of all trail systems by any member of the public that lives and pays taxes in Fort Saskatchewan to only certain user groups could use that amenity?
Yeah, I think it's quite normal to limit an access to a sensitive area.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nguyen?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to everyone who came and presented here this afternoon. My question has to do with a healthy balance between usership of our trails. And maybe this is extrapolating Councillor Macon's comments a little bit further. So you did mention about all the health benefits of using an area such as this. There are trails in the subject area that's going to be land transferred. So has the Natural Society discussed maybe a comprehensive view of what would be an optimal balance between usership of this specific green space that we're speaking to today, and maintaining that biodiversity?
Yeah, I think it's something that I think maybe should be part of this urban forest management plan, and that maybe we should be having a speak about how we use the more sensitive areas. Maybe we can keep vehicle traffic more to a certain location or on the cement, like the paved roads, or something a bit more, yeah.
Okay, that's a great answer. I'm glad the gears are turning, and we're certainly going to be evaluating that during our urban forest protection plan. Yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. There doesn't appear to be any additional questions. We're both turning each other off and on here. So thank you very much for coming out this evening. The fourth person I have registered to speak is Colleen Dolphus. If you'd like to come forward, and you'll have 5 minutes. So once again, the process again, because we are being live streamed, state your name and which item that you would like to speak to.
Hi, I'm Colleen Dolphus from the Indigenous Society of Fort Saskatchewan, and I'm here about the land transfer.
Okay, thank you, and you will have 5 minutes.
Thank you. So as the other ladies mentioned before about the land transfer and stuff, and your question about the bikes and being in that area, it's fantastic that they're transferring this land over to the land that we already use. So the only thing is I had been down there in the forest, and there is quite a bit of destruction there, and a lot of plants that us as Native people use is being destroyed and trampled on. I am a bike rider. I'm a road biker and a mountain biker, so I understand that the mountain bikers want to go in there and utilize the area and stuff. It's fantastic. but there needs to be a balance of, because there's so many amazing different plants in there, and they need to have the time to grow. My question for you guys is, once this land transfer is transferred over to the city of Fort Saskatchewan, will there be an oral history done of this area and the study of this area, so the council members and also the city knows exactly how important this area is to our small forests that we have left in our area because of the factories and stuff like that we have in our area. So it's very important to keep our forests protected from even just the impact of bikes and stuff like that in the forest area, especially that part of the area of our forest. Like we've got the whole river valley and all other stuff that bikes can be traveling in and biking and all that kind of stuff. But I just really would like to get an oral history and a study on that little piece of forest that's going to be transferred over to us before any more bikes and all of that kind of stuff are in there. So we give that forest area a chance to grow and to show us actually the beauty that it is in there. And then after that, maybe moving forward with allowing the bikes to go back in and making trails with everybody on board, and not just one type of person, but everybody kind of on board. Anyways, I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much for your coming out this evening and presentation. I know our staff are working with the Indigenous Society, and being that we don't discuss and deliberate with presenters here, that would be an excellent question to take through the staff member that you're working with to have it brought forward and as discussions occur. We haven't made any decisions on the land yet. That'll be occurring later this council meeting. So we don't have answers to a lot of questions right now, but we will be discussing that later. But definitely speak with the representative who's working with you and make sure that that question goes to administration.
Perfect.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Colleen? No, there doesn't appear to be, so thank you very much. All right, so those are the ones who have registered. So now the floor is open for anybody else who would like to come and speak to any of the items that are on the agenda. And it's River Valley Alliance, Road River Alignment Scope, Land Transfer. So if anybody else wants to come up and speak as part of a delegation, this is the time. Call a second time. Not seeing anyone else coming forward. All right, we will move on with the agenda. And thank you to everyone who has come. We will be discussing this a little bit later in the agenda, so you're welcome to stay. Or you can go home and you can watch it live. It's up to you. My husband watches all of these live, so he's an expert. So with that, we do have the presentation from River Valley Alliance, Christine Archibald. And we have Catherine O'Neill, who is joining us live streamed. So welcome. And we understand your presentation is fairly lengthy. We gave you 15 minutes, but I said if we need to stretch it to 20, I would be willing to do that to ensure that we get the full, but no more than 20 minutes. Okay, and you will be on a timer.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much for accommodating us. So I will jump right into it. I just have a couple of introductions here. There are a couple people here with me that are council-appointed members of our Community Engagement Committee, John McMillan and Marianne Woodman, and they're very valuable members of our committee, and they represent Fort Saskatchewan really well. So I just want to make sure that they're acknowledged for attending.
Okay, and we should also acknowledge that Councillor Noyen is representative on RVA and Councillor Blizzard is the alternate.
That's right. And Councillor Harris sat on our board for a number of years as well. So
that's right.
We're well represented. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I do have a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to just run through. In order to avoid you listening to me natter on and on and on, we did a lot of video this year for our presentation. We went out to each of the locations throughout the 6 municipalities that are our shareholders. So you could see, I know it's winter and it's not nearly as beautiful as it is in the summertime, but you kind of get a sense of place, at least, for each of the municipalities. I can jump right in. Okay. So just a little overview is what we're going to talk about, and I'm not going to waste any time.
The River Valley Alliance has always been about connecting Metro Edmonton's River Valley end to end with one continuous 100-kilometer trail. It's also the longest trail, River Valley Trail, in all of North America, and a true point of pride for the entire region. The RVA and its 6 municipal shareholders have 5 main reasons for wanting to complete this work. Number 1, access to nature, an essential factor in the well-being of humans, both physically and mentally. Being in nature reduces anger, fear, and stress, and increases endorphins that generate feelings of positivity. Number 2, encouraging movement. There are many ways to be physically active on the trail, including walking, running, hiking, cycling, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, the list goes on. Increased physical movement leads to many additional health and wellness benefits. Number 3, community. Social connections to and within our diverse communities are essential to overall health and well-being. Number 4, preservation. This 100-kilometer River Valley Trail flows through 7,300 hectares of parkland. Preserving this area as a park system helps to protect the diverse ecosystem within it. And number 5, cultural awareness. The North Saskatchewan River Valley has a long and storied Indigenous history. This 100-kilometer trail flows from Devon to Fort Saskatchewan, through the city of Edmonton, and will soon, very excitingly, have a unifying name that speaks to and honors this Indigenous history. Over the past decades, the RVA has proven to be responsible stewards of public funds in the coordination of building and connecting this trail, but the work that began more than 20 years ago is not yet complete. This presentation will outline the priorities, plans, and funding schedule to complete our full 100-kilometer trail, including short-term projects already underway and long-term goals to connect the final 25 kilometers between Southwest Edmonton and Devon.
And to that list, I would actually add economic diversity. This regional River Valley Trail is the longest in North America through the largest River Valley park system on the entire continent. So it's an iconic point of pride for the region and potentially a unique tourism destination as well. Also, amenities like this trail system attract new residents and even new businesses to the area. So surveys repeatedly show, and there have been lots of them done, that the River Valley and Park System rate in the top 1 or 2 reasons why people like living here. So those are our 6 municipal shareholders. This is our very esteemed board of directors. And again, thank you to Councillors Nguyen and Blizzard. Our staff, we're a mighty team of 3. So operating amounts, I just want to really briefly touch on this. We did slash our operating contributions by 50% in 2020, and they'll remain so up until the end of our grants in 2025. And also our operating draw on our provincial grant funds, we're allowed to draw up to $500,000 per year. We draw less than $300,000 just to channel as much money as we possibly can into infrastructure. Just a little refresher, maybe. I know, Mayor Ketcher, you've been so familiar with the RVA for many, many years, and some of the councillors as well. But some of the newer mayors and councillors, I always just kind of remind them that this regional park was agreed to with a plan of action that took 2 years to write way back in the early 2000s. And it was agreed to unanimously by all the municipal shareholders. So this is an agreed upon plan for the regional trail. It is a 1/3, 2/3 funding model. So 1/3 is funded by the municipalities, 2/3 by the River Valley Alliance through the federal and provincial grants that we hold. I'm clicking through this quickly, but I just don't want to take up any more time than I have to. Phase 1 projects. So these will be completely finished by the end of 2025. You can see in Fort Saskatchewan, we helped to fund Riverside Nature Trail, West River's Edge Pavilion, and then of course the Highway 15 pedestrian underslung portion of that bridge. We've been told by Sturgeon County that we want to come up with a new name for that bridge. They do not like Highway 15 underslung, so perhaps that's a conversation we'll have to have in the future. The RVA has contributed almost $7 million currently to these projects, and with the trail connections to the new underslung footbridge, there'll be additional funds put toward those projects as well. So we did start out with a $110 million capital program from the provincial and federal government, and of course, $80 million of that was funded through the RVA, with $30 million from the individual municipalities in accordance with the projects that are within their boundaries.
We're at the historic town site of Lamoureux. This is Lamoureux Trail.
Is there any way we can get the volume up?
Unfortunately not. The system volume's maxed out. Apologies.
There will be an interpretive sign installed somewhere in this area that does designate this as kilometer 100 of our historical trail.
So that was just speaking a little bit about Lamoureux Trail, and I can just give the Coles notes. That is what you can see on the screen. Across the river from Lamoureux Trail, of course, is the city of Fort Saskatchewan. This area is kilometer 100, what we consider kilometer 100 of the trail. There will be signs, 3 interpretive signs, once we announce the trail name, that have are installed. So kilometer 0, Devon area, kilometer 50 is in the Rossdale area of Edmonton, and kilometer 100 will be Fort Saskatchewan Lamoureux Trail area. Going to go through, I'm not sure if you can hear this. This is just talking about the Highway 15 pedestrian bridge. It will be slated to open in June of 2023. That's our time frame right now. Most of the connections that need to be made are weather dependent. It's a lot of landscaping, so we can't really get into it there until the ground thaws. So Mother Nature willing, we'll be in there hopefully by April, and it's only about a 6 to 8 week build that needs to happen there. So we're forecasting by June 2023, and of course we'll work with the municipalities to make sure that we have a nice, better grand opening ceremony than we had previously with the province, and we'll invite you, Mayor, and Councillor Nguyen to speak.
Here we are at the site of the huge underslung Highway 15 pedestrian bridge.
I'm not sure if you can hear. Is it worth even going through that? Okay. So then I talk a little bit about Strathcona County to Edmonton footbridge. This bridge is slated to begin construction this year, so it's a key connector for residents of Fort Saskatchewan as well. They will be able to travel those 13 kilometers into the Strathcona County region, where I think it's Legends Golf Course and Quarry Golf Course across the river, of course. If you're a golfer, that helps to be sort of a point of interest. But the bridge will be in that location, and then it will connect all the way to the West Anthony Henday Underslung Bridge in Edmonton. So that's some 75 kilometers worth of trails that you can jump on with your bike. These are bike-friendly trails, and they're open to most types of transportation as far as walking, hiking, biking, strollers, skateboards, all of those good things. I'll talk a little bit about the Terwillegar Footbridge. This is a fairly iconic piece of infrastructure when you think about RVA projects. This one is in central Edmonton in Terwillegar Park. The one actually between Strathcona County and Edmonton is modeled after this one. It's not quite as fancy, but it will be, it's got a little S-curve. It has to go around some existing infrastructure within the river. So it'll have some architectural interest to it as well. So we're looking forward to that. And then I just go into the southwest. Battery Creek Trail is one of the trails in Devon. They also have the Battery Creek Campground and also Voyageur Park. They have quite an extensive trail system within the town of Devon. It is mostly completely built out. And Voyageur Park has also a motorized boat launch and some good washroom, lots of parking. So It's very busy in the summertime, especially. I think that's one of the things that this trail tries to do, because it is 100 kilometers long. It flows through both rural and urban areas, and it helps to alleviate some of the pressure on the more popular and busy parks, because people do like to explore different areas and get them sort of out of those busy places, or give them different options to explore and to alleviate some of the more densely populated areas. And then we talk about Riverside Trail in Parkland County. The trail end to end is really interesting because it's very different as far as the actual landscape goes. This is Parkland County. You can kind of see on your screen behind me. The banks are very steep, very different than here in Fort Saskatchewan, which are a little more gentle and sloping. Fort Saskatchewan, we always say those trails from Fort Saskatchewan to Strathcona County and even into the city of Edmonton are really great for cycling and things like that, because they're fairly flat, they're fairly accessible with a bike. Whereas you get into the Southwest trails or more into the Parkland County area, and you're looking at staircases. So they're really great for hikes and a little more of a challenge. This staircase in particular is 300 steps down, then there's about a 2-kilometer trail connecting, and then 300 steps back up. So there's no way of avoiding them, but the views are out of this world. So those are the phase 1 projects, and I'll just talk briefly about our phase 2 projects. So as you can see from the slide here, the trail by the end of 2025 will be 75% complete. That dotted line that you see is 25 kilometers, and it's what we call our gap. We do not currently have funding to complete this gap. It's about an $18 million build. So if we went by our current funding system, that's a 2/3 provincial federal government, 1/3 city of Edmonton is where the entire trail resides. So, $6 million from each level of government. It's not a huge ask, but they need to know that it's a necessary and a priority for our municipal shareholders. So it's really important to, if you're ever speaking to them, if you have those opportunities to talk about the RVA and the trail system, that's absolutely pushed on our end. We certainly do try and do as much advocating as we possibly can, but like I said, we're a small team of 3, so we do rely on our board of directors and our volunteers. So I just talked about the gap here a little bit, and you can see this is where the gap actually starts in the city of Edmonton. That's the Anthony Henday West Bridge right there. So that is what we call South Trails, and it's divided into 4 segments. We're not really even asking that all of it be done with one fell swoop. We'd be happy to piecemeal it out. Big Island Provincial Park, that was also just announced by the provincial government, is in this region as well. The Big Island itself is very environmentally sensitive. It will not tolerate much more than some natural trails and some day use areas. So it will have to have parking off-site. It will have to have washrooms off-site. And there currently aren't these trails that exist to connect up to Big Island. So it should, in this way, also be a priority for the province. So one trail, one name, 100 kilometers. We did go through a very extensive trail name process these past 2 years. Unfortunately, I do have a little bit of a video from the Indigenous elder that we ended up receiving our name from. Perhaps I'll try and play it, and maybe you can put your listening ears on and try and hear it. This is Hunter Cardinal. He's from the consulting firm Nehewan. We worked with him extensively over the past 2 years. He did a lot of outreach to Indigenous elders and knowledge keepers from all First Nations and communities that we reached out to and that agreed to actually speak with us. And that was actually quite a few. And we had great representation even from Inuit and Métis as well. So we were really happy with the engagement that we got. This is Elder Jerry Saddleback. He's from Samson Cree Nation. He is one of the last remaining Indigenous elders that has knowledge of the story. He's a knowledge keeper. He gets to share the creation story. And if you know anything about Indigenous culture, only elders and knowledge keepers are allowed to share that information. So we were really fortunate that he agreed to share the story of the River Valley with us, the trails, some of the sacred trails that they had and why they were used. And from this outreach, the trail name that Indigenous peoples used for centuries came forward again. It hasn't been used for a very long time, and we were honored to accept that as our trail name. So that will be announced on May 11th at 11 a.m. at Kinsman Park in Edmonton, and you will all be personally invited, so please keep watch. So our plan of action always included that vision of a unifying end-to-end trail name. We had unanimous support for proceeding with that at our 2021 AGM, and this will help brand our unique trail for higher orders of government and encourage the completion of that last 25 kilometers. This is just a little reference of the actual process that we utilized over the past 2 years. It was a lot of work, but it was absolutely worth every last minute of it. I'm so thrilled with the outcome, and I hope you will be too. So sign and symbol locations, I already sort of referenced this a little bit. Kilometer 0 is Devon area, kilometer 50 is in Rossdale area of Edmonton, and then kilometer 100 will be right here in your own backyard. And then I just talk a little bit about where that location will be. It's right around the Rossdale area. This is historically significant to the trail name. It references some of the previous existing items and our animals and or Indigenous stories that were right in that area, right around the high level bridge. You're probably wondering how much is all of this costing? I'm happy to say that it's not costing the municipalities anything. We were able to garner funding from corporate sponsorship, and we've also approached the provincial government for some additional funding, and that will cover all of the Indigenous outreach, all of the creation of announcement materials, and including the 3 interpretive signs that will be installed. We're also working with a Métis Dene artist, and he will create a symbol that designates the trail so that when you see it, you know, oh, that's the da-da-da-da-da trail. Because we don't want to litter the River Valley with any more signs than we have to, this symbol will be created in a fairly small sign, and it will be added to existing infrastructure and signs throughout the River Valley, in addition to the 3 interpretive signs, and that will help with wayfinding. We did do a lot of stakeholder engagement. We're often brought into some bigger projects like Big Island Provincial Park, the National Urban Park, North Saskatchewan Heritage River proposal, the modernization of the Ribbon of Green. Strathcona County's regional park, Parkland County is also doing a regional strategy plan around their park system. And Explore Edmonton, we've just begun working with them because the 100-kilometer trail is so close to being finished and will be a potential tourism driver for the region. We're working with Explore Edmonton on destination development at this point, at the very, very early stages. And that's my presentation. I think just in concluding, I would like to highlight how important the regional collaboration is, and thank you to Fort Saskatchewan for being a part of that. The 75-kilometer trail, or the 100-kilometer trail is 75% complete. That momentum is there to finish it. We just need that little bit of impetus to encourage the new and or incoming provincial government to help fund, as well as the federal government. And we certainly appreciate the contribution from Fort Saskatchewan. Thank you. Happy to take questions.
Great. Thank you very much for your presentation. And yes, I sat on it from 2007 to 2010. So I think most of us on here sat on it for a small period of time somewhere along the way. So I will open it up for questions. And I know Councillor Nguyen, as the representative, I will give you a small amount of latitude if you want to say something, but don't go too extreme.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for being here this afternoon, Christine. That was a wonderful presentation, albeit the video not functioning quite, but you did a great job abbreviating it. Obviously, it's quite a bit of work that you do with the small team of the 3 of you and a board that sometimes has more questions than answers. But it's great to be collaborating with you and to seeing where the RVA is going. There's quite a bit of work that's being done right now that is instrumental in moving to completion of this trail. I'm very proud to be on the board right now. So yeah, my question just had to do with municipal council's advocacy for further funding. I know you alluded to this in your presentation to complete, or I guess maybe start initiating phase 2, which is probably the best way to look at it at this point. So what can we do? I know that can be a complicated question because government is going to be changing provincially or in one way or the other. So yeah, what can we do to aid RVA with in that capacity?
Thanks for the question, and it's a good one. Thank you. I did allude to that a little bit. I know that on the regional board and in conversations with the province and perhaps even with the federal government, I know there's a lot of competing priorities. I have no doubt that you have a lot on your plate that needs to be, spoke about and had discussions with. But if there's 2 seconds to squeeze in the importance of finishing this trail for all of those, and if you need to refer back to, I think you got the strat plan in part of your materials, our strategic plan. On page 2 of that, it lists the actual 6 reasons that I went through why this trail is important and how it contributes to the communities in so many different ways. So if you could just put that in on your list of discussion items when you're talking to other levels of government and even the regional partners, the other municipalities that are the shareholders. It's going to be a collaborative effort. It has been for the past 25 years and it needs to continue to be. And then when possible, attend RVA events. I know we do invite, we have our trail walks monthly. We often come to Fort Saskatchewan because the trails here are so amazing. And I do actually have to give kudos to this mayor and council because your support has been unprecedented across the years. So thank you very much for that.
Excellent, thanks.
Okay. Councillor Abatoye.
Thank you for your presentation. You guys obviously do really great work, and I hope that when the trail does gets named, it can be on the Guinness Book of Record. I think that'll be amazing. But to my question, so I think on your material, it talks about how every municipality is responsible for the capital cost in their municipality within their borders, right? And I just look at your strategic plan. It's on page 15. Under amenities, it has all the municipalities there. So my question is, that's phase 2. So are those capital costs for all the different municipalities, or are those municipalities sharing that cost for the trail for phase 2 that's going to be happening at that point?
Yeah, this is actually our expenditure, so from the RVA side, not from the municipality side. So that I should change that if it's not clear. So we're planning to put in with our phase 2 funding, in addition to finishing that gap, there needs to be a few more amenities in different places along the trail, such as comfort stations, washrooms, maybe a little bit of additional parking and signage and things like that, just to help with everyone's use of the trail. And so we plan to put another $10 million into that kind of work.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And just my final question. Other than your the grant support you get from the 3 levels of government, do you have other sources of income or revenue as an organization?
We're just thinking about that now, and Councillor Nguyen, please jump in if you have anything to add. I'm really happy to announce, because Fort Saskatchewan has been so supportive, even the community itself, Kiera Corporation just presented us with a community grant for $135,000 toward the trail naming. And so they did that. They actually approached us and asked us to put in a proposal because they think the work of the trail system, they think it's really important to the communities, and most particularly they wanted to support Fort Saskatchewan community as well with those trails. So we are looking at corporate sponsors now. Now, of course, it depends what they want on their end. Right. We can't give them naming rights or anything like that. It really has to be just community support. So we are looking at that. But there is the old adage that public infrastructure should be publicly funded. And so we do rely heavily on our levels of government.
Got it. Thank you so much. And
You're welcome.
Your presentation was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Harris.
I don't have a question, but I did want to thank Christine for making the presentation. It's been a long journey. I had the opportunity to be involved when we first set it up back in the day, and to be on the board for that period of time. So I'm really glad to see that the naming thing has moved forward to where it is today. That was a long journey, and credit to yourself and the members of the board and our local community members that have been on board all the way along. So thank you very much for your time and effort.
And thank you, Councillor Harris, for your time and effort. Appreciate it.
Councillor Blizzard.
Thanks for the presentation. I actually had a goal that didn't happen last year, but I walked from the Fort Saskatchewan start in town here to as far as we could go where the footbridge will go. And my goal this summer is actually to take my dog and walk on the other side too in bits and pieces, 4 kilometers at a time. It is doable. But anyway, so it's great trails. I've walked them lots. Are you going to have trail markers ongoing throughout the trail so that people kind of know? Most of it's pretty wide and easy, but there were
a little bit with our symbol that's being created by our Métis Dene artist. It will add to the wayfinding position because it is a little bit confusing. Like you said, it's pretty wide open, straight. You stay on sort of the really designated path. It's not that hard, but sometimes you get into areas that you're not familiar with and it branches off and you're kind of, well, which way should I go? And so we will need to recognize where those areas are, and that will be a key spot to put that symbol. And then every time you see it, you know, oh, here I am. I'm still on the trail.
Yeah. Okay. And there's other trails. So like close to us, I don't know of too many others in the rest of the region, but Athabasca Landing Trail that kind of joins in, or will at some point. Are you gonna, when we start promoting this, put like this direction as, you know, some of the other trails?
Absolutely. We work quite closely with Trans-Canada Trail, actually, and all of the municipalities with the other trails in their system. Sturgeon County, because only Lamoureux Trail was really a part of the RVA's trail, but we're happy to support the other trail networks that connect up to it, and we will definitely be putting together some mapping systems and things like that so people can explore in any manner that they'd like to.
And you mentioned Big Island. Did you mention like you're looking at a bridge so that people can actually get onto it?
Yeah, right now that's sort of the province's territory, how they connect. They're looking at land access right now. It's still undetermined. Probably originally when it actually first opens, there'll only be water access until they can gain some kind of right of way. It's all private lands for the most part that connect up to Big Island. So the province will have to put in, it's not a big bridge that's needed to connect to the island. It's really just a wood little walking bridge. Sometimes it's even dry. It depends on the weather and whatnot. It does flood quite regularly. So that's not an extensive build, and that will be the province, but they'll need to connect to the larger trail system. And so that's more the River Valley Trail system that we work with the City of Edmonton on.
Okay. I guess that's all I have for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much for coming out this evening and sharing. I think our River Valley system is very important. I was going to ask about Athabasca and Trans-Canada because I thought Trans-Canada, this was a link that they were really missing here. And
absolutely, and we have those conversations with them all the time, and to prioritize that link. So definitely a key for sure.
Excellent. Well, I think it's really good for the public to be able to see what's happening and, you know, how much work is being done to connect people to the land. And I think that that's probably one of the most important roles of the RVA. I wish you much success in going back to Ottawa to try and get funding, back to the provincial government to get funding. This is very important. So thank you very much for coming out this evening or this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I know we had in camera on here immediately after delegations, but I didn't want to hold Christine and Catherine back. So what we'll do is I will take a motion to go in camera as we do have one item to discuss regarding negotiations. So Councillor Abatoye, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to go in camera as per FOIP.
Thank you. Call the question. Please cast your vote. All right, that is carried unanimously. So for those sitting in the audience, we will be going in camera for a short period of time, and then when we return, we will be discussing the final items on the agenda. So thank you. Okay, we will resume the meeting. We'll see if Councillor Kelly is joining us once again. Councillor Kelly, there you are. All right, so we will resume the meeting, and we do have business arising from the, you can sit there, it's okay. Business arising from the in-camera meeting. So I will need a motion. Has anybody got the motion up? Miss Exley, can you put it up? Pardon? Okay, Councillor Blizzard.
Oops. I make a motion that council approve the compensation adjustment put forward in the confidential closed session report presented to council February 28, 2023 for the collective agreement between the City of Fort Saskatchewan and CUPE Local 30 for the period January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2026.
Okay, thank you. Do have to ask if there's any further discussion. Not seeing any, I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. The next item that we have is 7.1, Project 18037, River Road Alignment Scope Change. Grant Schaefer presenting.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Grant Schaefer. I'm Director of Fleet Facilities Engineering, and I'm here today to provide feedback on the engagement of Project 18037, River Road Realignment, and to request a decision on closing the roadway to traffic. In 2017, heavy rains caused a portion of the riverbank along River Road to slough, putting the road in danger of collapse. Barricades were installed to reduce the road to one lane and move traffic away from the bank edge. In 2018, Project 18037, River Road Realignment, was approved to realign River Road around the slough area. Through negotiations with the adjacent landowner, acquisition of right-of-way was agreed to in order to accommodate the road realignment. At the November 28, 2017 council meeting, a revised budget was presented to council to complete this realignment work. Council directed administration to complete an engagement process with industry and the campground operator regarding the impacts of closing the road and converting it to a trail. 6 industrial complexes were asked about the impacts of closing the road. Of those, 3 responded. No responses had any significant objection to the potential closure, with this road not being part of any site operational or emergency plans. There was an indication that closure would affect their staff who commute using this roadway. The campground had no objection to the closure and felt it would be a benefit to their operations as they view the road as a traffic safety issue. They also stated that their clientele do not use this portion of the roadway. The city is working with ME Global to connect the sanitary sewer to the Northeast Lift Station this spring/summer. This construction will cause a closure of River Road north of the planned road closure. While some preparation for this closure could occur during this time, the road would not be closed until construction is complete. Closure of the road would involve the installation of gates, signs, and turnarounds at the entrances to the trail, with wood fencing being installed along some of the steep bank edges at the south end. The work is estimated at $125,000 and will be complete within the existing project budget. Administration has developed 3 options for council's consideration. First, council could amend the scope of the project from road realignment to road closure and trail conversion, with this work proceeding in the summer of 2023. Second, council could amend the budget and add $705,000 to the project and move forward with the realignment as was originally planned, with, again, this work proceeding in the summer of 2023. Thirdly, council could refer the project back to administration if there's any other information they would like. The recommended motion is that council alter the scope of project 18037 River Road Realignment by authorizing the conversion of the existing roadway to a multi-use trail with limited vehicular access from approximately 350 meters northeast of the entrance to the Fort Lyons campground to approximately 750 meters southwest of 119th Street. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. So I'll open it up to questions. Not seeing any questions. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Councillor Abatoye.
Just a small question, not to let you get off easy. So how does this road closure impact emergency services? So I'm talking about maybe firefighters services, some sort of emergency services that's city related, not industrial.
Your Worship, Councillor Batoya, in discussions with emergency service, it's not a primary route that they use. There would be gates at either end that could be opened and allow access through if required.
Okay. Well, easy, I said, right? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation, Grant. I also have a small question. So the total project budget for the conversion is $220,000. That's correct, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so what does that include exactly? And the reason I'm asking that is there any repairs to the surface of that roadway for the trail conversion at all? That's kind of all I'm referring to.
Your Worship, Councillor Nguyen, there's no repairs identified at this point. We would be doing turnarounds at both ends, gates, some fencing to provide safety.
Right, so that's solely for the addition of what we need to convert it to
correct.
a trail. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And my question, so with the recommendation that administration's putting forth, that would take it up to the one landing, area. There's that one wooden landing. That's Bracken's Landing, but there's one just a little bit further up. And then that would, and then on the other portion of it, that would just provide nutrient access to their road, correct?
Your Worship, if I understand where you're saying correctly, that is correct. It would be from where the trail along the west side of industrial buffer comes out. That'd be the start of the closure, which is where that one lookout is, all the way up to just about nutrients access.
Okay, and then a second reason for it, it'll just provide better connection for people to ride bikes, to walk, to connect with the area.
Your Worship, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, there does not appear to be any additional questions. So what is the wish of council on this one? Councillor Nguyen?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. So I'll move that council alter the scope of project 18037 River Road realignment by authorizing the conversion of the existing roadway to a multi-use trail with limited vehicular access from approximately 350 meters northeast of the entrance to the Fort Lyons campground to approximately 750 meters southwest of 119th Street.
Thank you. I'll accept that motion. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I can. Appreciate the work that's gone into this, and I think there's been some good discussion around the project, the options converting it to a trail or keeping the roadway as it is and realigning it. It's obvious from the engagement that we've received from the neighboring industry that it's not going to affect their operations, and I'm glad to see that. I think it's going to, in the long term, save City of Fort Saskatchewan quite a bit of money. So it makes the most sense to convert this to a trail system. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blizzard on discussion and debate.
Yeah, no debate. I will support this. Just a couple of comments. I'm going to miss it because I know when we had family in town, that was a stretch that I did drive just to show them some of the old river. It was an easy way to see the river going by car. And then there's also, so I like driving that. And I saw beaver there the last time we went, like right beside the road. That was really cool. And we stood right beside him as he's busy. I don't even know what he was doing, but it was really cool to watch. But I can walk that trail. I guess I'll take friends that way. In that stretch that's closed, there's an old piece of train track that I think it's got chain link fence around it. There's actually access to the road. There used to be a sign there, and it actually, the last time I went, I don't remember seeing that, and it talked about on the island itself, across there, how that used to be mined for gravel, I think, or was it wood? I don't even remember what it was. But do we still keep that up? Because I seem to remember walking up and it was pretty run down. Are we keeping that up? Will we? Do we put a sign up? Or
Your Worship, Councillor Blizzard, the sign is actually in our public works yard now. It needs to be redone. And that is an area that is being maintained again, yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. And I too will support this motion. I think it's probably long overdue. When River Road was put in initially, it was actually for people to access the river. But of course, as the Alberta's industrial heartland has grown and matured, and we've got like 40 major industrial players out there, it has become a road that people use to access it instead of taking the major road through the highway. So I think bringing it back to what the initial part of this road was supposed to be and converting it to a trail, I think it will serve our citizens even better. For the people who are utilizing the campground, for the people who like walking down there, they can maybe drive down there and take a walk through there. So I think it's going to be very positive. I know when we approve the expansion of the campground, the one comment that was made from the people who live on the hills going down is the amount of traffic that was happening because of people shortcutting to use that road to get to industry. So I think it will be just safer for everybody, and it will provide more quiet enjoyment. So absolutely, I'll support this one. Councillor Nguyen on close. Nothing on close. Motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, the next one, thank you, Mr. Schaefer. The next one that we have is land transfer request. We have Janelle Smith-Duguid and Corey Wald will be joining her from Nutrien if there's any questions. Yes, I just had a sneeze. So welcome. You're good. Yeah, push your button.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Janelle Smith-Duguid. I am the General Manager of Infrastructure and Planning, and I'm here today to request a decision on a land transfer request. Joining me today is Corey Wald, Safety, Health, Environment and Security Manager with Nutrien Fort Sask. Nutrien is offered to transfer 6.04 hectares or almost 15 acres from Nutrien to the city of Fort Saskatchewan. The subject area is located within the industrial buffer. The buffer is currently exclusively owned by Nutrien and provides a 0.75 kilometer separation distance between residential homes and Nutrien's operational site. The portion of land that would be transferred is located adjacent to the residential area and contains an existing 3-meter asphalt trail, Ross Creek, and the surrounding ravine. The existing recreational trail within this area is authorized through a recreational trail agreement and easement. The agreement was endorsed in 1997 and is in place until the city ceases to operate or maintain the recreational trail. The proposal from Nutrien outlines benefits for both parties. For Nutrien, the transfer will reduce the company's risk profile. For the city, the transfer provides the city with unfettered access to land that has been used for public recreation for over 25 years. Public Works currently maintains the trail and adjacent green space. The remaining area is forested land which requires little maintenance. There would be no ongoing additional impacts to the city's current operations to maintain the land. A review of aerial photos and site visits shows several encroachments within the ravine. The city and Nutrien have received multiple reports of trespassing and damage to the natural area. Following the transfer, a cleanup initiative would be undertaken by the city in the spring or summer of 2023. Those who use the materials or encroachment in the subject area may feel a sense of loss or disruption from the cleanup effort. The Indigenous Society of Fort Saskatchewan expressed a desire to be consulted on this matter. Administration met with the members from the Indigenous Society, as well as a nearby resident who is a member of the Fort Saskatchewan Naturalist Society, on February 2nd, 2023. All representatives expressed a strong desire for the city to consider the value of the native vegetation that grows within the forest. The Indigenous Society also expressed a strong desire for the city to consider the historical and cultural Indigenous significance of land within the city, especially land near the river valley. There was also a desire for the city to do more to protect the native vegetation within this area. The representatives from the Naturalist Society provided photos documenting changes within the area since 2007. In recent years, multiple vandalism complaints have been received for Ross Creek Ravine and Turner Park. Some of the earlier complaints were related to unauthorized removal or damage to the vegetation. In 2022, the city entered an agreement with the Fort Saskatchewan Trail Alliance, authorizing some maintenance and enhancement of multi-purpose trails within the river valley, not including this subject area. Since the agreement was endorsed, the maintenance that has occurred in the area has been in line with the agreement. Administration recommends that Council directs administration to accept the offer from Nutrien and that the city inherits ownership of 6.04 hectares within the industrial buffer.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. So I will open it up to questions, and you may direct them at Janelle or Mr. Wald. So Councillor Harris, you're first.
Madam Chair, if I don't have any questions, but I'd be prepared to put the motion on at the following after we've asked our questions.
Okay, I will come back to you for a motion then. All right, Councillor Kelly, you're next.
Thank you. Janelle, your report or the admin report references the environmental assessment. Can you give Council a Reader's Digest version of what was done for an environmental assessment, please?
For sure. Through your worship, we did have Nutrien did hire an environmental company that did an assessment of the area. The assessment recommended a vegetation analysis in the spring, which was also completed. No significant concerns were noted. The report did identify that there was some litter and an old oil barrel in the area and recommended that that be cleaned up.
Yeah, thank you. I've been in Fort Saskatchewan almost 50 years now. I'm unaware of anything that would have impacted that particular piece of property. Were soil samples taken as part of the environmental assessment just to check to make sure there's been no contaminating runoff of any kind?
Oh, I'm live. Hi, and thanks for inviting me today. Councillor Kelly, no, there was no actual physical samples taken. The phase 1 assessment is just a site visit, and my understanding is mostly a paperwork review of any licensing or permit that would have been applicable to those areas, which there was none.
And if I could add on that, there were soil samples taken nearby for a similar project, and we assumed those results would be applicable here.
And that's probably a fair assumption. What do you mean by nearby, though, Janelle?
The River Road project.
Okay, but that's, I guess, what sort of provoked my question. It sticks in my mind that the River Road project noted some issues.
Okay, Councillor Kelly, if you wish to discuss that more in depth, we could go in camera.
Mayor Catcher, let me ponder that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Macon. Oh, just a second. No, I have Councillor Nguyen and then Councillor Macon. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask a simple question first. So, and I walk down this area, and the photos that you have of, I think, where site cleanup needs to happen, it looks like that there are landowners that were kind of using that as a bit of a backyard. There is some structures like tree houses, and I don't know if those get used at all. So, was it in the plan to maybe contact those homeowners to see if they want to remove some of their, let's call them personal items instead of debris? Is that?
Through your worship, yes, absolutely. We'll be notifying the homeowners before we do a cleanup, and then they can move the items if they like.
Okay, great, thanks. My second question has to do with the caveat that I believe that would be recommended by Nutrien to place on this property. That's okay. So, but my question would be, what is the rationale between a caveat on the let's call it the teal and the purple parcels of land? Because the reason I'm asking that question is because it looks like adjacent to those two rectangular parcels that there are rectangular parcels in the city right now that are developable. And I'm not suggesting that that's something that the city would ever be interested in, but I'm curious about placing a caveat there adjacent to properties that are similar to what would be acquiring through this land transfer.
Yeah, right. For sure, and that's a great question. I mean, that was written quite some time ago, without the help of any legal counsel. So. It was just a suggestion that we ask. There's kind of a no development caveat put on the parcel of land.
Okay.
But looking at it now, I understand your question. That said, if you are familiar with that area, I think some of it is really kind of undevelopable. There's quite some challenging terrain in there, but the main gist was to not infringe on the protective effect that space has.
And would that affect that as a requirement of a buffer zone for Nutrien, or is that beyond that's beyond that zone, right? So it wouldn't really matter to industry what happened with that land effectively.
Right. And those two smaller parcels that you refer to, I mean, really talking about it now, it would really be, there'd be no impact if there was a desire to develop.
There wouldn't be. And okay, so in administration's point of view, then would that be something that we should look at discussing with this land transfer? And I'm not sure what provisions in the future could include for that property, but as was mentioned, it doesn't look like anything's feasible there, although that caveat would be perpetual, right?
Yeah. Through your worship, yes, I believe that's reasonable.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, for sure.
Questions? Councillor Macon?
Thank you. So I don't believe it was ever the city's intention with this land to develop it regardless. So what do you foresee as the next steps given the feedback that we've received for this property?
Through your worship, so the feedback that you're referring to is the comments about the damage within the forest. So I see those concerns being valuable input for the public engagement that will be done with the Urban Forest Protection Plan. The River Valley is very important to lots of people. We need to balance multiple interests. So I do hope those folks come forward with that engagement and share their perspective. For this land, the plan is to do some minor cleanup, and then for the most part, it's business as usual. The bike group that we have an agreement with, the agreement does not extend to include these lands, so they would not be authorized to go in and create more trails or make jumps or anything in this area.
Have we had any concern that they're doing that? I believe I heard you say they've been sticking to the agreement, so it hasn't been those users in that area.
Your worship, yeah, that's correct. Those users, we've had some calls about potential not following the agreement, but when we investigated it, we found that they were in line with what we had authorized.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll talk next. So I'm going to pose my question to Corey. Sure. So I know there's been significant changes with fencing, and so I guess can you just explain to everybody why now that you've made the decision that this land should be turned over? I think everybody deserves an answer on that.
For sure. For sure. Thanks, Mayor Kitcher. Well, it was really, from the beginning, it was really kind of a two-phase plan. So the incursions and the problems we had on the bigger green space kind of drove the decision to actually technically move the fence a few years ago. The property had always been fenced to protect the industrial facility, so we really just kind of moved it. I know many people are not aware of that. But then that left that little strip that backed right onto our neighbors. And so in talking with my Nutrien colleagues and the leadership there, I suggested that, we should perhaps, as a goodwill gesture, donate this land back to the city so that the residents could continue to enjoy it and use it without having to manage the risk and liability that the corporation is trying to shield itself from. And when we looked at the parcel, it's really not critical to the operation of the facility. It's a small piece of land. It doesn't serve much purpose, but it has been regularly and frequently used for years. So the leadership at Nutrien agreed, and I think we talked to, I can't remember who we talked to over here, but several people over the course of a couple of years. And here we are. We just like to give you some land for your residents to enjoy. Right. It's really that complicated and that simple. I know there's a long history of that land out there, but I do have to point out that, and I wrote their names down somewhere, but the ladies who spoke earlier, a lot of their concern came from the destruction of some of the natural properties in some of the natural areas. And really that fence, as industrial and unsightly as it is, part of it was to protect those lands, because we were having problems in there with the destruction, and we just did not have the staff and the resources to manage it. So we'd make a best effort, but really we were kind of forced into restricting access as a final decision. So anyway, I don't want to call it a peace offering per se, but like I said, the residents who back onto us have enjoyed that for years, as well as many members of the community, and this is probably the most beneficial way to proceed with that parcel.
Great, thank you. I just think it warranted an opportunity for you to explain the why, and I think it's good that you explain that everything within your fence line is also protected. So
it has made a large difference.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Councillor Blizzard.
Thanks for the presentation, and thank you very much, Corey and Nutrien, for offering us this land. It hasn't been accepted yet, so I'll just say that so far. I do have a couple of questions. So when I zoom in, how accurate is this map? Because when I'm looking at the green portion, does it go right to the, I think it's path, not a pathway, behind the houses? Does it go right to all the land, right to the almost the driveways? They have like a path behind the houses?
Yeah, so I'm not sure which one you're looking at. I assume it's
maybe Janelle has it there. There's the green piece. When I zoom in on it, it looks like some of the woods aren't encompassed in that piece. Are they all? It's just not that accurate on this map.
Can you speak to that?
I can try, yeah.
Oh, sure, go ahead. Okay.
So I believe there is a city right-of-way between the houses and the green polygon.
Okay, so that already belongs to the city.
I believe so.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. Then when I zoom out a little bit and I'm looking at the pathway, it's outside of the yellow piece, but the path will be part of that transfer.
It crisscrosses. So we just, this is a survey we did because it's a separate parcel already.
Okay.
Right, it wasn't part of the.
So the pathway parcel will be all the cities, though.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to check on that.
I guess you mentioned it in your package, Janelle. The city is, the path is already managed under a memorandum of understanding.
Yes, I saw that it's managed by us, but when I zoom in on this, it looks like the path is outside of this yellow area that looks like we're getting.
Well,
but it is all part of it.
It's hit and miss. I'm not sure how this was generated. but what I've got here is actually the surveyed map that
Okay.
shows the right of way.
And we're not going to have a fence right through the middle of any of our pathways. Yeah. Okay.
There's-
Just wanted to check.
Assuming this is supported, we're,
Right.
we're done fencing.
We'll decide that in a few minutes.
We're done fencing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly?
Thank you. Mayor Catcher, I'm going to ask for the lenience of council and move that we go in camera on this particular issue for a few minutes.
Okay, discuss items that are of sensitive nature. All
Yes,
right.
please.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I'll just wait for Ms. Exley. Okay, so we have a request to go on camera to talk about environmental assessment. Please cast your vote. Wait for it. Okay, that's carried unanimously, so we'll take leadership team. You can join us.
Okay.
Yes. All right, we will resume the meeting. I'll just ask before I go to the motion, are there any other clarifying questions? If not, I will go to Councillor Harris for a motion. Go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I would move that Council direct administration to proceed with the land transfer proposed and the proposed transfer of land from Nutrien to the City of Fort Saskatchewan dated June the 2nd, 2022, and as attached as Appendix B to the Council report dated February the 28th, 2023.
Thank you. I'll accept that motion. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I do. As a matter of fact, I was involved in the negotiation of the trail access agreement on which the trail currently sits. I came to the city in 1996, and the city was in the process of expanding its trail network at the time. We wanted to build a trail from 100th Avenue down to River Road. And we had discussions with the corporate entity at the time. I believe it was Viridian. Yeah, I actually can't remember, but council empowered me on behalf of the city to negotiate the access agreement, which we did, and it gave rise to the building of the trail that is in that right-of-way at the current time. The building of the bridge over Ross Creek and the access from 100th Avenue right down to River Road. So for me, this is kind of closing the loop on something that I started many years ago, and quite frankly, didn't expect to be here having this kind of a conversation with council colleagues and the public. I think this is a good opportunity to take the land that was, I think, originally always contemplated to be Parks Reserve and incorporated within our trail network and our parks network. For the protection of the things we're going to be having discussions in terms of our protection and our plans for protection of the forest ecosystem within the city of Fort Saskatchewan. So I think this transfer makes a lot of sense, and it's about time, and I'm glad to see that Nutrien has seen fit to do this. We understand the reasons why, and I think it makes eminent sense for both our corporate partners and for the city to move in that direction. So I'm pleased to move this motion.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Harris. It's now open for discussion and debate. Councillor Abatoye.
Thank you very much. And that's a very touching story, Councillor Harris. Thanks for sharing that with us. I definitely support the motion. I think it's maybe big thanks to Nutrien for bringing this forward and transferring to the city, and also to all members of the Naturalist Society for coming to share the thoughts on the indigenous. Sorry, I'm biting my tongue here. Indigenous Society for coming to also share their thoughts about the land. I really look forward to how we're going to utilize this area, and as we obviously are going to be going to the next phase of cleaning up that area that we engaged. The homeowners in that area, but definitely support the motion, and I think it's a good thing. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Councillor Blizzard.
Yeah, I'll support this. I think this is a benefit to the city, and I think that when we do finish the cleanup, we need to make sure we balance the use. I do like the idea of that maybe bikes can go along here, but we also need to make sure that the trails are such that nature can thrive here. All the delegates, that's what they came for, is asking, and I think that is important. Some of the plants need their space, and they can't have people tramping through them and killing them as they're trying to go. So we need to watch that. I've walked this path, not in the woods, just the pathway, but even just walking beside it, it's an awesome area. I'll have to go back and walk some of the pathways that are there. And thanks to Nutrien, if this passes, for the opportunity to have this land.
Great, thank you. I too will be supporting this motion, and I thank Nutrien for coming forward and bringing this to the city and turning these lands over, especially at no cost. So we really appreciate that. And when I look at the pictures that are there, yes, the areas that are closer to the houses, absolutely. I think that's an area that has to be addressed and ensure that it is cleaned up and made back to its original state. I look at so many people are connected to our forests, to our pathways and our trail systems. And that's what we're known for. And I think when they can see the flora and fauna that goes alongside of it, you know, it's just the beauty. So it's nice to know that these lands will be with the city and looked after, and even better to know that the lands that are within your fence line cannot no longer be disturbed by cyclists and people knocking down trees. So I think this is a win-win for everybody. So I greatly appreciate your initiative in this, and thank you very much for coming out and being able to answer questions this evening. Is there anything else on discussion and debate? Not seeing any. I will close. Oh, go to Councillor Harris for close. Nothing. All right, the motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. So thank you very much. All right, the next 3 items were passed under consent. There are no bylaws this time. Are there any notice of motions? Not seeing any. Are there any points of interest? Not seeing any. Oh, sorry, Councillor, I'm looking. I should be looking forward.
Thank you. So I just wanted to let the public know and remind council that next week, March 8th at 7 p.m., our RCMP and Municipal Enforcement, as well as that being hosted by our policing committee, are having a policing town hall. And that is your opportunity to information share with these 2 great organizations in our community, as well as they're really looking for input on helping them set their priorities for the next year. So I would love it if we had a packed house that night. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors. It'll be 7 p.m. at the Lions main room at the Dow Centennial Center, March 8th. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Are there any other points of interest? Not seeing any. Are there any councillor inquiries of administration? Okay, not seeing any. That will take us to our official closed session at the end of the meeting. So I'd like to thank everybody who came out this evening or this afternoon. And with that, I will take a motion to go into closed session. Following that, of course, we will just finish up in closed session. So there will be nothing further in here. And motion to go in, Councillor Blizzard. Would you like to make that motion? Push your button. Go ahead.
Should know. Okay, I make a motion that we go in camera.
All right, thank you. Motion is closed. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We will now move into in camera.